What's going on, everybody? So in this video we are going to be covering what's going on in the NFT and crypto markets, as well as some major updates on some of the hottest projects. So let's go ahead and dive right in. First of all, we got to dive into what's going on in the crypto markets in general. So based off the past couple of days, everything moving sideways once again, right? So over the past 7 days, we're kind of in between that 1.5 1.6 area. It seems like things are pretty stable, so just be mindful of your entry and exit. And let's go ahead and dive into the NFTs. One of the bigger pieces of news is there have been some updates on the Doodles Dooplicator. So we did cover them a couple days ago where we talked about Doodles Dooplicator, and these were going to be able to produce clothes. And so now we have some additional information on what this is all about. So the first thing is that there's this new marketplace called Doodles 2 is using the marketplace Gaia, I believe that's how you pronounce it. So, you know, some of the articles of clothing these duplicators are able to make is going to be these crew socks, these shoes, these pants, these clothes. Okay, so these are the assets that the duplicators are making, right? And it's quite interesting because these socks, you know, $99 for these orange socks. It's kind of funny to see because without context and you don't know it's Doodles and you're just looking at these socks, people are going to be like, I don't understand why these socks are $99, right? But obviously it's because it's connected to Doodles. There's some perceived value over there. So one of the interesting dynamics about this project is that if you do not own the Doodle, you can actually buy the rights to customize another person's Doodles using the duplicator marketplace. Now, will people particularly use this service right now? Most likely not. I think until Doodles becomes a larger brand and people are like, oh my God, I need this Doodles with the skeleton or whatever, right? Then maybe there's a possibility of that. But it's interesting that they even opened the opportunity so that, I mean, you could also call that innovation in the space because it allows people to list their rights for other people to use their Doodles in a very simple way, a very centralized way. So that's pretty much it for Doodles. I'm still following along to see how the market reacts to this, but definitely some interesting innovations in a sense, but we'll have to see moving forward if this is really going to onboard Web 2 into Web 3. And by the way, everybody, next Wednesday we are actually going to have another session of the Parallax Academy, and we are going to be talking about all the different minting strategies that were extremely popular over the last year. We're going to be going over how Bored Apes minted, from Cool Cats, Doodles, Azuki, Valhalla, and so much more. So we're going to go in depth on the psychology behind these minting strategies, the difference between public sale, whitelist sale, Dutch auction, and what are the pros and cons of each of this. So if you are interested in this, whether you are a project builder looking to refine your minting strategies, or maybe you're a trader or a speculator and you want to see, you know, what the different strategies do in terms of how that affects the price on the secondary and the market, you definitely want to check this out. And if you do, this is going to be exclusive for Parallax Genesis holders, right? So this is all going to be taking place live within our Discord next Wednesday. And if you want to pick up a Parallax Genesis and join the live session, which also will be recorded and available on our learning platform, make sure to pick up the Parallax Genesis on Opensea. Link is also in the description, and I will see you there. Now, next piece of news that we have is going to be Artifact. And they recently have been dropping quite a lot of trailers, kind of hyping up their Exodus launch. So what Exodus is, it's basically going to be like this burning mechanism for their space pods, right? So the whole lore that they're creating is that there's these clones that live on a planet, and their planet is going to explode, so they have to, you know, go on their spaceship and they have to fly away and go into the galaxy and find different planets to live on, which is very interesting because it kind of sets up for this whole expansive universe world that Artifact can potentially create a lot of IP around, maybe video games, different planets and things like that. So I can definitely see how it's setting up for the future. These space pods are very like Star Wars inspired, I would guess, right? If you really look at, you know, some of the older Star Wars movies, you see the inspiration there for sure. And now when we're getting into the details of everything, they're basically released this information over here. So space pods, I suppose if you have a space pod, it gets updated for free. If you got a loot pod, it also updates for free. And if you want a expo pod, you gotta burn 2 space pods and 2 loot pods. You want a Lux pod, it's got to be 20 space pods and 20 loot pods, right? So a lot of different burning mechanics over here. They probably feel like they have maybe too much supply of the space pods and they got to find a way to burn it and then use it for something else, which is interesting. And if you were curious, this is pretty much what the space pod is, right? So as you can see on Opensea, the Artifact Pod X, they already got the loot pod over here. And then for this one, the Exodus pods, they already have the Artifact Expo pod and the Lux pod, which is quite expensive, right? Because these ones you have to burn like 20. These ones you got to burn a fair amount as well. So for the luxury ones, seems like only 20 people have this one. For this, the Expo pod, seems like 300 people have this one. Now, why would people buy this? Probably there's some speculation element of like, hey, you know, if you have a Lux pod, maybe that will give you special advantages for whatever the next thing is, right? And so that's how projects have to keep the excitement in a space where it's a lot of speculation on what will happen next. And the game is really the game in the game of, you know, buying these different assets, burning them, combining them, whatever it is, so that, you know, you have an advantage for the next thing that comes around the corner, right? Next piece of news that we have is going to be Oh Baby Games. Now, Oh Baby Games, it's a newer project that recently started posting on Twitter recently. As you can see on Twitter, they actually only started posting apparently January 31st, so just a couple days ago, right? And so the big thing here is that one of the co-founders of Twitch is an angel investor, and these other people are also angel investors as well. So it seems like it's going to be a studio where they're going to be launching a lot of different type of games, not just focusing on one game, but I think a lot of like games that really don't take that much investment to do to create an alpha. So the first one's going to be What the Cart, which is a fresh take on the kart genre. So probably you can say Mario Kart, but for Web3, right? And the other one looking like it might be like Super Smash Brothers of Web3. It's pretty interesting. There's not too much information about this, but you know, you have a lot of heavy hitters backing this. So if you're interested in getting into gaming projects early, you definitely want to check out Oh Baby Games. Now let's go ahead and talk about a new meta that has been popping around the corner. That's going to be the OpenEdition meta. OpenEdition, all it really means is that somebody is selling art. You know, the tokens are fungible, meaning they're all the same, right? It's not non-fungible. It's like, let's say for this one, for example, it has been minted 1 million times. And you know, there's a lot of artists right now that are just launching these free NFTs. It could be free NFTs or it could be like very inexpensive NFTs. This one's particularly launched on the Manifold. And so how it kind of looks like is for this particular artist, they had a collection already, right? So it's like these Nakamoto, which is like supposedly the founder of Bitcoin art. And then basically this OpenEdition, meaning the free one that everybody can mint, is used as a way to get people to become aware of this artist. And then this person is saying, hey, if you have the full collection, which costs money, you're going to get the next NFT after that. It's a way for people to create buy pressure for their other pieces of work in anticipation for the speculation of whatever comes after. And so we see a lot of different artists doing these kind of strategies. So this in itself, it's not particularly innovative because everyone's doing it now, right? We covered this before. Proceed with caution. It's kind of doing something similar where you got to collect these things and then it kind of just hyping up whatever the next thing will be. Very, very cryptic. At the end of the day, it's art, right? So it's like speculative. It's valued on what people are willing to pay for it. So just keep that in mind. You know, what is the real value of it? The value is that it creates an experience where people can speculate, have some fun, you know, make money, lose money, and maybe collect some pieces of art, right? That's the true value of it, in my personal opinion. It's a social experiment where artists are really capitalizing on this attention in meta. So just keep that in mind and just know that sometimes metas come in and sometimes they become popular and maybe that's the new standard, and sometimes it just goes away and a new one will pop up, right? So always be careful when you're buying these things. Don't just buy because of the FOMO. Don't just buy because of the speculation. Understand what game you are playing and whether or not you want to participate in that game. Now, next piece of news we got is DigiDaigaku. Probably, you know, the biggest thing that they have right now is going to be the dragons. So, you know, DigiDaigaku is like launching project after project after project, and they're actually proving that like, hey, you know, if DigiDaigaku was a free mint and they're just giving away all this free stuff. So I definitely, if you bought it in the early days, you're getting lots and lots of free stuff, which is great. And they're going to be running a Super Bowl ad, and during that ad, you're going to be able to mint your dragon. If you want to learn about all the mints and everything, I'm not going to go over it in detail in this video, but you know, they have option to mint these dragons during the Super Bowl ad. You know, the thing I'm personally curious about DigiDaigaku is like, what is this game going to be? You know, I feel like the way they do the marketing, it definitely goes into that speculative like DGen market of like, hey, you know, if you buy this NFT, you're going to get a bunch of free stuff, right? But it's not really clear what the game is going to be. So I'm just curious to know if the game's going to be good, if people are going to play it, can people actually make money? Because if that doesn't work, then all these free NFTs kind of like are very, 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 very speculative, which is all right because I think they're very honest and clear about what they are doing. And a lot of people buy into that because that's how the crypto market works right now. And so with that said, that is everything we got to cover for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and I'm going to see you in the next one.